Just book the dang hunt. Life is too short to just save up all the money. Book experiences. Do things that you're going to remember for the rest of your life. Make memories with the people you love. Go on more extravagant hunts. Get a dream to start going on some of these hunts and then building a plan to get there. I am joined by Mr. Nick Hoffman of Nick's Wild Ride. And after going on a couple of rants, after going on some rants about people who sit back and say, well, yeah, that must be nice. I wish I could afford to go on those hunts. We get into just that. We talk about some really affordable, cool options to go hunting. Nick shares some really good insights and some really good ideas for you to do some really cool hunts in Africa, Asia, New Zealand, all of these different types of really cool hunts that I promise you will be mind blown at how affordable you can do them. I left the episode already inspired to set the goal to do some of these things and to figure out how I can do them most affordably and to make them happen. Guys, Nick has been on some incredible adventures, and he's here to give you some insight on some of those really affordable adventures that you can go on. Again, after we get through a couple of rants. It is a really, really fun episode. It's a really, hopefully an inspiring episode to inspire you to make some of these things happen. We also, we talk a little bit about some life changes that we have made in order to be able to afford to go on these hunts. This episode is brought to you by my friends over at 2O, making incredible Western gear that's not going to break the bank. It's very technical, it's very well built, and it comes in incredible patterns. That's one of the things I would tell you. If you sit back and tell me that you can't afford to go on an elk hunt with me, but you're wearing $5,000 worth of clothes, there's an issue. If you have spent too much money on gear, now you can't even afford to go on the cool hunts. 2O is offering incredible Western gear that is very technical built. It is very, it is functioned in every single type of scenario I have put it in. I would highly encourage you to go check out 2O. One thing that I think is not talked about enough is the incredible quality of their merino wool. I have worn a lot of merino and I have beat a lot of merino. 2O merino performs better than any other merino I have ever put on. Guys, I would highly encourage you, go check out 2O gear, TUO. I believe in it enough to say I believe they'll probably take over the Western clothing game. That's how much I believe in it. Go check them out. Let's jump in with Mr. Nick Hoffman and figure out some really cool, affordable hunts that you can go on.
For the true sportsman, it's more than a pastime. It's a way of life. Embrace the lifestyle of hunting, fishing, and the thrill of the wild. Live the life. Be typical.
There are a lot of great companies making a lot of great bows. Pretty much if you go buy a new bow today, it's going to be a good shooting bow. However, very few bow companies are still single family owned. Even fewer bow companies are Christian owned, which is a very important value to me. And third, very few companies are really looking to push the needle in innovation. That is why I align myself with Prime. Prime, when I made the switch to Prime and I got my hands on this RVX 32 right here, I spent so much time with that bow. I put so many arrows through it. I took it on several different hunts and several different climates and put it just through about anything you can put a bow through. And it performed in every way that I needed it to. It shoots really well. It balances really well. Super high quality. The materials that go into it are great. And then in 2025 comes the form, which just goes to show you that Prime is really looking to move the needle in archery innovation, which is something that's important to me. So guys, that is why I align myself with Prime. I would highly encourage you to go to a Prime dealer and shoot the bows. I would highly encourage you to go to g5prime.com and check out their full lineup. Prime makes a phenomenal bow, but it's also a company that I can feel good about standing behind and supporting. So go check out Prime for your next bow. Nick Hoffman, Nick's Wild Ride. Man, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Oh, not as busy as you, dude. My show schedule was greatly reduced this year, and I was very thankful for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're just talking about trade shows, man. Trade shows are just in a continuation of my normal schedule, which is just gone.
Yeah.
My wife jokingly refers to me as Nick Gone Hoffman, and there's a lot of truth to that. I'm one of those lucky people that get to do what they love for a living, right? So I'm out there hunting and playing music and getting to run around the world systematically checking off my bucket list. I mean, man, I can sit here and complain about being gone, but those things that I just told you about, there's nothing to complain about that. Be careful what you wish for, right? There's a song that my band, The Farm, had that has a line in it that says, "Everything we take for granted now started off as a blessing first."
Yeah.
Let me tell you, buddy, I am a guy living his wildest dreams, and I try not to take any of it for granted, because all of it is a blessing, all of it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, what a life, man. It's crazy.
I think it's funny that you say that. Be careful what you wish for, because it's really easy. Like, a lot of people sit back and they're like, man, stinking Nick, dude, all he gets to do is hunt. Like, he hunts for a living.
Yeah.
And they don't realize, like, yeah, I wish. Like,
yeah, it's the old,
wish I hunted for a living.
It's the old must be nice thing, right? Like, must be nice. Yeah, dude, it's not all it's cracked up to be at times. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are moments of absolute sheer joy and glory, right? Like, I mean, you get done with a hunt and you're in some foreign country, and something I used to only dream about, read about in magazines, and now I'm doing it. Yeah, that's not hard if you say it fast.
Yeah, right.
But the truth is that that's a lot of money, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a divorce, a lot of time away from my daughter and my wife and my family and my farm and all the things that I love. I mean, it's ironic that the very things that I love more than anything, my passions, are the very things that take me away from the things I love. You know what I mean? And, but you talk to, I just got back from SCI and from Grand Slam Club Ovis. Both those things are back to back, and ran into, some of the legends, right? I mean, I sit down and have a cup of coffee with Tom Hoffman and talk to him about his adventures. And yeah, they were he's still out there doing it, right? But I mean, his big adventures were several, decades ago, started several decades ago. And in a lot of ways, it's easier nowadays because we have more technology. We can stay more in touch with each other. We've got Starlink in sheep camp now. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But in some ways it's easier than it was for them. But in some ways it's tougher now because of that connectivity. Tom was saying, we'd go and I wouldn't hardly get to check back in at home for 2 weeks. Well, that's a blessing and a curse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a great thing to not be able to check back in at home, because then you just get in the moment and you're focused and you're just there and present. And when you get home, you're present.
Yeah.
But on the same token, it's a blessing to be able to do these trips and stay in touch with your kids and stay, so I'm not sure which I like better is the point. That was a rambling way around to talk about, it's a crazy time, to be able to travel and still FaceTime every night,
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I was in recently, like, one of the most remote camps I've been in a while, and I had Starlink. I mean, like, I was FaceTiming and uploading videos and doing all sorts of craziness. And, just even 2 years ago, I wouldn't have even been able to use my phone, let alone literally watch Netflix in my tent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I'm not sure if I like that or not. I'm a little bit of a traditionalist. I don't know if I like this totally being connected all the time thing.
Yeah. No, I got you, man. But like going back to the must be nice thing, it's funny because on a couple episodes ago, Michael Waddell went on this absolute rant, and like there's very few times like where you see him get mad.
Yep.
And he got mad, like talking about this mentality of must be nice, of
Mm-hmm.
people just sitting back and it's easy to sit back and say must be nice. And it's funny because we get done recording that, and I was on social media and I see Alan Bolin doing his tour of his booners, and somebody comments on there must be nice.
Right.
And dude, I wanted so badly to just say, like, you just said that to the worst guy on planet Earth, because like, you don't know, this dude has been on, 17 sheep hunts to find that one sheep,
That's right.
passing up, dozens of legal rams because he wanted that giant. So like, you can't sit back and say must be nice, because you could do it too. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you could make the life decisions to do that as well. But most people don't want to make those sacrifices.
Man,
most people don't want to do that.
I mean, you really nailed it there. And I'm a product of taking big leaps. From running away from home when I was a kid to play music. When I was 16, 17 years old, I ran away from home because I wanted to dive in. Would I make that decision again? Yes, I would have done it a little bit different. But
yeah,
the same thing with, I had one of the greatest musical gigs in the world, literally in the world of all time. And I left it to go do my own thing and to make way less money and have way less glory and way less craziness. And then I left that to start this Nick's Wild Ride television show. And so those are sacrifices, man, big sacrifices, not to mention the time away from home and the money and all the other things. I could have picked paths that would have been a lot more lucrative for me. You know what I mean? But instead I'm choosing to chase, my version of what you talked about with Alan. You know what I mean? My version of what Alan's doing is I care less about booners than I do about adventures. Like I said earlier, I'm systematically checking off my bucket list. That's my goal for me. My goal is to turn this body in, well used, with as little money in the bank probably as possible. You know what I mean? I just posted something on Instagram a couple minutes ago that was talking about, none of us are getting out of here alive, so you might as well make it count, and my buddy Britt Longoria said something at SCI when she was talking about her late husband, at the very end of her little speech that was a tribute to him. He won an international hunting award. I mean, Ricardo Longoria, legendary bow hunter. She said at the very end of it, she goes, book the damn hunt. You know what I mean? Like that's the first step to getting over the, it must be nice thing.
100%.
You know what I mean? Everybody's, I don't have that money. I don't have that time. We make time and we save money for what we want. I believe in that. Now there's no doubt. Probably, I don't know for sure, but Alan probably has more resources financially than a lot of people, right? I definitely probably have more resources than some, but a lot less than other people that are doing less than I am, right? I have chosen to allocate the majority of my resources towards systematically checking off my bucket list, like we talked about. You know what I mean? And so, and that is, let me tell you, there are big freaking sacrifices for that. You know what I mean?
And I like, it's my pet peeve. Like when somebody says like, man, I wish I could go on an elk hunt. And I'm like, okay, how about you stop smoking cigarettes? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, you're spending $5 a day on cigarettes.
Absolutely.
That's an elk hunt.
Yep.
Or you're driving through Starbucks and spending $7 on a drink. Like that's an elk hunt,
Absolutely.
Like stop. Or they sit back, they say that while they're wearing $5,000 worth of Sitka. And I'm like, dude, you spent more on the gear and now you can't even afford to go on the hunt. Like,
man, you're opening up a slippery slope of shit that I feel really, really
go for it, man.
Passionate about. But it's
that's what we're here for.
It's you're exactly right. For the people that are listening and that don't know much about me, I'm a country music artist. First and foremost, I'm a fiddle player and a singer.
Not a violin player,
That's
fiddle
right.
player.
My grandpa used to always say that the difference between a fiddle and a violin is $10,000. That's it. And that's probably about true. And so I was lucky enough to have a cool career there. But I always traveled to hunt. And as I just started discovering traveling to hunt, that was a life-changing thing. We can get into the origins of that later, but I'm bringing all that up to say that I have this television show called Nick's Wild Ride where I go all over the world to hunt, but really it's less about the hunt and more about the exploration of the history and the food and the culture and the people of the places that I go.
Yeah.
Hunt. And I say all that to say that my mission, while also systematically checking off my bucket list, my mission is with the show is to showcase the fact that hunting is about so much more than killing, right? And the other thing that I really try and showcase is that that hunting, not only here at home but all over the world, is a lot more doable and accessible than you think it is. It is crazy how inexpensively, relatively speaking, you can go to Spain and bow hunt ibex. It is crazy how affordably you can do an outfitted, fairly high success level archery elk hunt. You might not go shoot a 400, but you can get the experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The same experience. It is crazy how easily you can do a successful mule deer hunt. And it's not, you spend more, like you said, you spend more on those going to Disneyland. You know what I mean? And so, I believe in that these things are way more accessible, way more doable than you think they are. And all it takes is a little bit of discipline. And let me tell you, my first hunts, I got invited on a couple of international hunts that made it really easy point of entry and very affordable for me. But my first hunts that I bought on my own, I saved for them for a couple of years. My first big elk hunt, I saved for several years. And it was not something that I could really afford at the time, but I chose, like I said, to allocate the resources to do it. And I don't know, anybody that says that they can't, I'm living proof that you can.
I mentioned I mentioned one time having a hunting budget, and it's a budget that my wife and I had agreed upon, and there's a certain amount of money each month that goes into a hunting budget. And dude, this guy made fun of me, saying like, "Oh, you got to ask your wife permission to spend like all this stuff." And I'm like, dude, I want to make these things possible. So if that's the case, like I've got to set aside, some months it's $20 and some months it's $400 right. And some months it's, and then, that way, if I do get the phone call and they're like, "Hey, you want to go on an elk hunt with us?" I can look and say, "Dude, I've got $5,000 in that account." Like, let's spend it. Go hunting.
I got a buddy who just saves his change. And he has sent himself on some pretty nice hunts over the years. And it's one every couple of 3 years. You'd be surprised how many thousands of dollars you can save. Just by putting your change in a jar. And I know lots of people do that. And it's so, but my parents back in the day, they took us to Disney World with change in a jar.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's incredible. I mean, it's not that hard. I do it still. I take, there's a automatic withdrawal out of my checking account straight into my savings account every month. And it's enough that over the course of a couple of years, when I need some extra cash for a hunt or a little tip money or something like that, I've got this little fund, this slush fund sitting there. I used it to book a hunt to Africa, at SCI last week. I dipped into my little slush fund that I've got for that. And anybody can do that. You know what I mean? And different people can do it on different levels. Don't get me wrong. I know guys that have, and this is to the extreme, but I know guys that have shot their sheep slam, because they basically live in a camper.
Oh yeah.
On somebody's back 40 and they have nothing. I mean,
100%.
And I mean, these dudes are living like peasants, and because they're putting all their money, every ounce of money they make into, saving for sheep hunts. And I'm not saying that somebody should go and do that. The one guy's been divorced like 3 times and he's a complete screw up, but by God, he's going to get his sheep slam out of the deal. So hey,
it's funny that you say that, because I've told my kids, and I've told them, I'm like, yeah, you need to understand, if your mom dies, like, I'm going to be the guy that you're embarrassed to bring your friends over. Like, cause they're going to be like, this is where your dad lives. Like, I'm going to spend $200 on a little apartment. It's probably going to be in a crackdown. Like, and there's probably gonna be meth heads running all around my neighborhood. But when you walk in, like, you're going to see new bows, and you're going to see, all these cool trophies that I get to go hunt, because I'm not spending all this money on all this other stuff, but that's my priority. And, another side of that coin that I think is important is, I've also had guys who go on elk hunts every year, but then I go on a guided elk hunt and they're like, oh dude, like, yeah, Mr. Moneybags. Like, and I'm like, do you understand that you have been on 6 DIY elk hunts and been unsuccessful? Now, I understand that's quote unquote cheaper, but by the time you add up all of the tags and licenses you've bought, all of the fuel to get to Colorado and back, the lodging that you've paid for while you're there, or the new tents you had to buy to go there, whatever, you've easily paid for a guided hunt.
Yep. And not all guided hunts are created equal. I mean, I just did speaking of guided elk hunts, I drew a once in a lifetime elk tag last year. I drew a Nevada, 111 through 115 elk tag, arguably the best elk tag in the country, one of 6 non-resident tags, and just a total lottery thing. Right. Well, I had the option. I could go DIY. Right. But no, I paid for local knowledge. It's the same public ground. I paid for a guy to show me the ropes, to a guy who grew up there and kills big bulls every year. It was worth every penny. And I'll tell you why. I don't subscribe to the whole, there is, a DIY hunter is a better hunter. I am fully freaking capable of going out there and killing an elk on my own. Absolutely. But I love hunting with someone else, and I love learning. Yeah. Right. And it's like, man, the best way to learn is to go you pay to play for that. But man, I want to make my success level for this once in a lifetime tag as good as it could be. As far as an over the counter elk tag in Colorado, for example, I've done my share of DIY stuff, and I've had some success and some not. But I'd rather just go with somebody that can take some of that guesswork out of it. And that to me isn't any less prideful. I still do the same amount of work, and I'm still making the decisions. Like in the end, you can go, no, I don't want to do that. I want to go up here. That guy's not going to tell you no. You know what I mean? You can still make the decisions, but now you're surrounding yourself with as much information as you can. I'm for it. And if that ain't your style, that's fine with me. Like that.
I've said all the time, like, even if you do want to do it yourself, if you're hunting a new species, new area, whatever, start with an outfitter. Absolutely. And then do it yourself. And then the next year do it yourself.
You know how many times I've done that thing that you're not supposed to do, where I'll want to go fly fish a new river, spotlighting, and I'll hire a guide for the first day and then go and, maybe not necessarily steal his spots, but steal his tricks a little bit. I'm willing to admit that I've done that. Because why? Because it's why not let somebody else give you that homework and that local knowledge when you can. Don't get me wrong, it's really fun to go on a DIY hunt and be successful. And I've had plenty of guided hunts that have been a complete shit show and totally tanked too. Yeah. You know what I mean? So not all outfitters and not all guides are created equal either. I mean, I've had some elk guides that I was like, what are we doing here, man?
Have you ever seen an elk before?
Like, this dude, you don't know what the hell you're doing. And, that can and does happen, but I don't know. I'm each to their own. Anyway, I started to say, I feel I got this tag, right? And I hired a guide and we filmed a film, and you can go see it. It's a Vortex Hunts Films. It's on my YouTube. It's on Vortex's YouTube, and it's a badass film, badass hunt. My buddy Clint easily filmed it with me. He's just fantastic. And on that hunt, I obviously hired a guide, and then there's comments. You always got the haters in the comments, right? And this guy, he gets in there and he says something along the lines of, "Oh yeah, first off, we hunted for 12 days hard, and I mean one of the hardest I've ever worked. On all the sheep hunts I've been on, everything. This was one of the hardest hunts." And this guy gets on there and says, "Oh, it was a rifle hunt, and he says, oh, you hired a guide and you didn't do any of the work and they just showed you where to go and they just put you on them. And then on top of that, you're not skilled enough to get any closer than you did with the rifle and all these things, you know what I mean?"
Yeah.
And he mentioned, and he said something like, "You'll never be a ground and pound guy like Brian Call," he says to me, you know what I mean? And Brian's a friend, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I go, dude, like, what are you doing? Why are you saying this crap? Like, you don't know me from Adam. And if you did, you'd know I'm as, pound the ground as anybody, if not more. And there's no shame in hiring a guide. Zero.
No, not at all.
And you look at the legends, and I'm talking about, like I mentioned, Tom Hoffman earlier, Tom Miranda, all these guys, Alan Frost. I mean, these people that are just our heroes, our bow hunting heroes, right? Every one of those hunts is guided, man. Every one of them. They're not spending that money and running up to Alaska to DIY a sheep hunt. Like, you can't have enough knowledge to do that and travel around the world and do it. So I don't know. Each to their own. And I know we got haters saying, "Oh, DIY or nothing." Fine, man. Good for you. You mentioned Waddell earlier. He'll tell you if it's legal. And
do it.
And it's what you want to do and it's for you, do it. And we all need to support each other and we need to quit talking shit all the time. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. Anyway, look at this. This has been like nothing but me digressing into just rabbit holes of bullshit.
Dude, that's what it's for, baby.
Sorry.
Dude, I don't know if this came from SEI. Like, I don't know if he texted me this because, somebody was talking about it at SEI or something, but Tom sent me yesterday a video that he had remastered from his DVDs. And it's just all these crazy little clips of just like
Miranda you're talking about?
No, Tom Hoffman.
Yeah.
From some of his like original DVDs and, like bow hunting. Now I got to make this clear because, at the Pope and Young convention, we did a video and somebody took that clip and re-edited it and made it sound like I said Tom Hoffman, shot a narwhal with his bow. He did not. The people of the tribe shot the narwhal. He was just with them and helped supply the equipment. But those videos of like bow hunting narwhal and, walking up on polar bears, like, and I'm just like, dude, you are a legend among boys.
No, I am. Those guys were doing it at a time too, when we didn't have some of the amazing clothing we have now and the amazing bows and the amazing technology and
100%
range finding binos and all this stuff. Like, we didn't have that. They were doing it on a Spartan level, oftentimes in jeans and camo shirt. I mean, plaid shirts, man, I grew up reading and reading those guys and watching those videos, and they're my heroes.
I am mad at Tom though. He's supposed to come to Kansas and him and Justin and I were going to chase upland birds together and we haven't made it happen yet. So I am mad at him right now. But, man, let's take a step back and let's talk about how you did get to where you're at, man. What led you to Nick's Wild Ride?
Man, it's an interesting question. I did mention it a little bit of it earlier that I've always wanted to travel to hunt, but it goes a little deeper than that because a lot of people would be surprised by this, but I didn't grow up in a hunting family. Nobody in my family hunted. I grew up in central Minnesota and, a hunting mecca, of sorts around there. I mean,
there's not many families in Minnesota that don't hunt.
Yeah. And I grew up on a farm, little farm surrounded by prime deer habitat and prime pheasant habitat, right? We didn't have turkeys when I was growing up. We do now. So I grew up in ducks, of course, tons and tons of duck hunting. So, I was always one of those kids that even though I didn't grow up exposed to hunting at all. We always shot guns, and I learned to shoot. I shot archery in school. We had an archery in the schools program, so I started learning to shoot a bow pretty early. And also, I really genuinely believe that some people are wired to be hunters and some people are wired to be gatherers. And I was just always wired to be a hunter. I didn't realize it at the time, but me going out to the woods behind my house and tracking deer through the woods, literally tracking them through the woods, was and trying to sneak up. On one time, I almost snuck up and almost touched this doe that was bedded there. Like I would, that's hunting, right? I would walk through in the afternoons in the fall. I would walk through the ditches and flush pheasants by myself. Sometimes I'd bring our golden retriever that didn't know what the hell was going on. It wasn't a bird dog by any means, but I'd walk through I just liked flushing pheasants and listening to them cackle as they flew off. And so I recognize now that was just the hunting in me manifesting itself. So I started asking a neighbor, on two different neighbors, to take me hunting. One was my grandparents' neighbor, and the other one was one of our nearest neighbors on the dirt road we grew up on. And both of them ended up taking me hunting in the same season. I got my hunter safety certificate.
Very cool.
And my first ever hunt was for ducks up in northern Minnesota with my grandparents' neighbors. And then later that fall, my other neighbor took me on my first deer hunt. And we didn't get a deer that year, but I fell in love with everything about it. I fell in love with the deer camp and the traditions and the camaraderie and the laughing and the just, I don't know. I just fell in love with everything about it. And I think was my first entree into recognizing that hunting is about so much more than killing. It's about all of that stuff I just mentioned, It's about the people and the experiences and all the other things. And so, starting there, 12, 13 years old, I just got obsessed with it. And I spent all my allowance on Field and Stream and books and magazines and videos and all, everything I could. And so I had music and then this new love of hunting. And so, when I ended up running away from home to play music and then later on moving to Nashville, I didn't have, as much, time to hunt as I would have liked in between maybe, 16 and 21 or so, 21, 22. And also moving to the South it was a little overwhelming. I didn't know where to go. It was a totally different way of hunting, different areas, different kinds of stuff. But eventually I started meeting some friends that, were hunting. And then I got married, and my brother-in-law was an avid bow hunter. And I went out in his backyard, and I hadn't shot a bow in several years. And I got in his backyard. He had a brand new Matthews switchback, and it was an Outback, a Matthews Outback. And I shot that bow, and it was like a lightning strike went through me, man. I'm like, I gotta have this back in my life. You know what I mean? And so that was in my early 20s. That was like, I duck hunted every year and I did a couple things, but that was my entry back into big game hunting and shooting that bow that day. I'll never forget it. I mean, my life is measured before and after, like that moment. And, from there, I just dove right back in. I was just going to hunt as much as I could. And I was talking to every hunter I could. And I started meeting backstage at some of the shows. I was playing with Kenny Chesney at the time. And I started meeting guys like Lee and Tiffany and Lukoski and the Drurys and, Don and Candy Kiski and, later on Michael Waddell and some of these guys. I was meeting them at concerts or stuff that was related to that. And of course, we got to be friends, right? And then I got invited to go be a guest on Lee and Tiffany's show in their first or second season. I can't remember back when it was called Getting Close. And they invited me on a turkey hunt in Iowa. It was my first turkey hunt, and I shot a turkey with my bow. And not only was that a big thing for me, just first turkey, but also this was my first time filming a hunt, and I really enjoyed it, So then we got to be big, fast friends. They're from Minnesota. I'm from Minnesota, and so then they started inviting me on some other hunts, want to go on a bear hunt in Alberta? Oh yeah. Is a frog's ass watertight? Of course I do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And bit by bit, then I go and shoot a black bear with my bow, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. And then, then they invite me to Iowa, and I shoot a big deer with my bow. They're all on film. So now I'm starting to meet these people in the hunting industry, and I'm still doing the music thing. And along the line, I like I said, I left Chesney's band and started my band, The Farm, and we had a couple songs on Warner Brothers that were going up the charts. And I'm hunting all the way through all this and starting to travel. I'm going on my first elk hunt. I'm going on my first mule deer hunt. I'm doing all this kind of stuff, a lot of it on my own, not all just filmed. And then right around the time that our band broke up, I was talking to a guy named Dave Watson. We all remember Dave Watson, right? And my buddy Mark Baird, who was a television producer for Lee and Tiffany, a bunch of other people. And we were kind of bitching about outdoor TV of like, some of it sucks, right? Like some of it's not very good. I mean, let's be honest. And we were kind of complaining about how it feels like there's less and less quality outdoor TV all the time. And this is 15 years ago now, right? 14 years ago. And I can't remember how it all started, but Mark said, all right, smarty pants, if you had a TV show, then what would you do? And I said, well, that's simple. I'm the world's biggest Anthony Bourdain fan. Like, there's nobody cooler in the world to me than Anthony Bourdain, minus the suicide. So I'd have like an Anthony Bourdain style hunting show where I go all over the world to go hunting, but then I explore all the history and the food, the culture and the music of the place I go to hunt. Because that's what I do anyway. That's who I am. I'm always looking for the local dive bar, the local beer, the local museum. I'm always the guy that's like, why is that building there? What's the history behind that? And all these things. And he goes, that's a pretty good idea. Nick's Wild Ride, Dave Watson said, and so we filmed a pilot with Charlie Daniels, and I went down to Louisiana and hunted turkeys and made local hot sauce and a bunch of stuff. And the network immediately, Outdoor Channel was immediately like, we want that, and there's really nothing like it at the time. There was Meat Eater had just come out, but Meat Eater wasn't the same. Meat Eater was more about focused, especially back then, was more about hunt it and eat it. Right. And it was more about more domestic stuff and, it was certainly not all about me diving into all this history and culture. So there was something kind of like it, but there really at the time wasn't anything really quite like it. And the first season was one of the best rated new shows they'd had in a long time. And like I said, then my band broke up right around the same time. And I just kind of transitioned straight from that into this. And now we're filming the 11th season, and it just blows my mind. I've been on 150 plus big game hunts all over the world. And like I said, systematically checking off my bucket list. And it still just blows my mind. I would have bet everything I owned against the idea that somehow 11 years later, I'd be doing an outdoor television show. And what's even crazier to me is I remember I had a whiteboard and I wrote like ideas and had like a mission statement and a bunch of stuff like, what is this show? Right. And I had, things written down, and then the big letters at the very top, it said, I am not an expert. And the reason for that was that, A, I'm not an expert. You know what I mean? I'm just a dude who likes to go hunting.
Yeah.
And B, I'll leave the experting to the experts. You know what I mean? Like there's plenty of experts, especially in the outdoor thing. One of the things I hated about outdoor TV was that everybody was the best hunter ever. Just ask them. You know what I mean? And 100%, and I hated that. Like, and so I just wanted to be the guy that brought you along on his adventure, and that was it. Well, what's ironic is now 11 years later, I'm suddenly being looked at as a bit of an authority of some sort. And I keep trying to remind people, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just a dude out here. Just, I've learned a lot over 11 years and through a lot of great guides and a lot of great people and a lot of DIY failures on my own and everything. I've learned a lot, but let me tell you, man, I don't see myself as any sort of expert. I see myself as just a guy who is a fiddle player that got, really lucky to be in a position where he could take the entertainment career he'd built and and had an opportunity to start doing this. But
Yeah.
like I said, it's not without a lot of sacrifices and a lot of drive. I mean, I chose to do this and went after it. It wasn't like it would just happened one day and I got really, really, really lucky. I worked my dick off for it. You know what I mean? Excuse my language.
It's funny that you say that, because like 10 or 12 years ago, I absolutely hated hunting media. Hated it. Everything about it. And that was, I guess it was, 13, 14 years ago is when I started working in the industry, and I hated trade shows. I hated watching TV shows, hunting TV shows, because it was all like, look at me, look how good I am, look how cool I am. And they wanted to make
NASCAR too, right? Like it was man, if it was a Matthews sponsored show, it would be like, man, this Matthews switchback sure is the greatest bow ever. And I hated that shit. I'm like, click. You know what I mean? Not that I don't agree that that's a good bow, but it's like, click. I hated that stuff. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm with you.
No, you're good, man. So with the change in media over the years, I mean, and you can really, and it's, again, going back, it's funny that you mentioned Meat Eater, because I think people forget how wild that show was in the beginning. Like how just almost gritty it was. Like, dude, they're killing baboons and then eating them over an open fire. Like it was gritty and raw and just, but we've seen this change. We've seen this trend in media, and it's really went two different ways. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. It's went the hunting public way, where it's like, dude, we're just out filming raw footage and we're throwing it up as is. Like, just, we want to just flood the world with media. And it's raw, it's unedited, it's goofy, it's funny that, they don't listen. I buddies with all those guys, so I can say this. They're just a bunch of goofballs. Like they look like idiots. They're all dressed like morons. They're all wearing stupid clothes, but they're out there just having fun and just putting out media.
Yep.
So it's went that way. And then it's went the Jason Matzinger way of like producing these incredibly beautiful films and really just making like super cinematic TV and super cinematic films. So how have you seen, because you got in right at that changing point, right at that 12 year ago when media sucked. How have you really seen it change over those years?
Well, it has absolutely changed, and I've watched a lot of that. And I think that I'm proud to say that we're probably part of some of that too. We were in the middle between those two, so we still are
100%.
We were making highly cinematic television that feels light. So sometimes to the point where I think some of the production value and how hard we work for those big shots it goes over a lot of people's heads, because the programming and the tone of it is very light, right? It's very, very not take ourselves too seriously, and and a lot of it is a little more. It's definitely kind of a little combination of both those things, right? So you're following me around, and some of that's pretty informal, but then it's heavily scripted and heavily narrated, and heavily thought out. And so I think I have seen it change. And I think, here's the thing, a rising tide raises all ships, right? We need all of that. I prefer personally to watch produced stuff. I like cinema. I like movies. For me, the more Nick's Wild Ride, more Matzinger kind of stuff, that is a creative creation
100%
that I appreciate, right? Like, I like that personally.
Yeah.
Do I sometimes turn on something really raw because it caught my eye and enjoy it for a second? Sure. But, that being said, there's a whole nother group of people that just can't get enough of that raw kind of hunting public type of stuff because they identify with it. Right.
Yeah.
And so, there has to be, and there should be, a place for all of it. And how has it changed? That's part of what you asked, to answer your question. Where I've seen it change is within what companies, want to get behind. Right. And that, to me, that's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing that companies are behind stuff in the first place. Like, there's good and bad to that. But The bad side of it is that these companies, they kind of chase their tails a little bit. They're like, oh my God, that's working for hunting public, so we better do that.
Yeah.
Right. And forget produced media, forget the really, the Nick and Jason stuff. We need it to be raw, because that's what's working for them. And then they realize it doesn't work for that company, right?
Yeah.
Because they're just chasing numbers and chasing tails versus chasing authenticity. And to me, that's the buzzword, right? The reason it works for hunting public is because it's authentic. The reason it works for the hushing guys is because it's authentic. The reason
100%.
that works for Jason or for me is because it's authentic.
Yeah.
And so there's room for all of it, because what's authentic to me might not resonate with you, but it might resonate with the next guy.
Yeah.
One of the ways that I've found that people resonate with what we do is that I'm offering something that's, again, showcasing the fact that hunting is about so much more than killing, right? So for the hardcore guy that just wants to see blood, I might not be the show for you. But for the guy that wants to sit down on a Friday night and watch something that's a little more than that and still get your hunting fix, that works. Or I get stopped, and I was just at SCI this week, and I was at, in Indy, recently as well for the big archery show there and all that stuff. I get stopped all the time, and I say, either by a wife or by a guy that says, man, your show is the only show that my wife will watch with me. The only hunting show, because it's about so much more than that. What a compliment. I mean, because that's what I'm going for. I'm trying to show that hunting is more than that. And I'm as much a travel show as I am a hunting show. And that may not be for everybody. And that's totally fine, because we need guys out there preaching that hunting is about so much more than killing. And we also need guys that are showing nothing but kill shots. We need all of it. And so I hate the division between that. And let me tell you, inside the industry, because we are supported by companies and advertisers. That's how the television model works, right? And I'm not going to pussyfoot around it. That's how it works. So I couldn't do what I do without the support of a handful of incredible companies that believe in what I do. That being said, I don't think that that it's necessarily always a good thing that it's commercial. You know what I mean? I think that we need organic stuff. Now, the hunting public guys get paid like crazy now too, but when they first started out, they were just putting crap up there and people loved it. It resonated because of authenticity. And I lost my train of thought a little bit there, but the main thing is that I believe that if it's authentic to you and it's ethical and it's represents hunting in a good way, then I'm freaking for it. Yeah. And I don't care what it is, as long as it's ethical and it represents hunting in a good light. Because, man, there is so much anti-hunting sentiment out there. And as soon as I am the guy who does make sure that the photos that I post are good, that there's not a tongue hanging out. I will even go so far as to doctor a little blood out every once in a while. And that's because I believe that I want that photo to be really interesting to a hunter. And I want it to also be compelling and not make hunting look in a bad light to somebody who doesn't hunt that stumbles onto my page. I think it's important. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that, and again, I don't want to take anything away from either side. And I remember a couple of months back when Matt Singer was on and we were talking about his new film. I said something about how I like what he does better than like watching the hunting public. And, we went on to talk about how that's not to take anything. Like Jason pours months into one film, if not years. I mean, with scripts and all this stuff and going in with a shot list, almost like producing a movie. But he was to say, But he was to say, but that doesn't take anything away from the hunting public, because
Hell no.
they're doing it daily. Like they're doing the things daily and putting it out. And so they're putting in the same amount of work, as I am.
That's right.
They're doing, 52 videos and I'm doing one. Like that's
right.
But it's the same amount of work. But I think you're right, man. We need all of it. And that's the benefit of it.
Well, it's important. It's important for a lot of reasons. Who are we talking to? Well, each one of us is talking to a different heart, a different mind, and what matters is, are we recruiting new people to the sport, and are we doing it in an ethical way?
Yeah.
And are we entertaining the people who are already here? Because in the end, it's entertainment. That's what it is.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is entertainment. What Jason's doing is entertainment, and what the hunting public people are doing is entertainment. And we have a responsibility as entertainers, and as representatives of the hunting community as a whole, to do it in a tasteful and ethical way, and to be entertaining at the same time. And I get kind of pissed at the people who try to who think they're experts and they're cooler than school and all the things. Man, we're entertainers. What we are.
Yeah.
And we're still hunters, but we're in the game of getting people to watch our content. I mean, let's be honest, that's what it is. And a lot of people don't want to admit that that's what they're doing. Oh, I'm putting it out there and people like it, then that's cool. Bullshit. That is bullshit. You're doing it because you want people to watch it, because you're trying to make a living doing it. Usually, you know what I mean? You're trying to elevate things, and that's fine, because we need it. People learn from that stuff. The same thing about going on a guided hunt versus not a guided hunt. I don't see studying all these videos and all the books and all the things and learning about it as much different. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're still learning one way or another. So I don't know.
No, you're absolutely right, man.
I've already pissed off a few people, I'm sure, by some of the things I've said, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like we have a responsibility to not only be entertaining, but to be good stewards of the great fortune that we've been given, which is to be some sort of, I don't know if we're authorities necessarily, but some sort of people that are representing the space and representing the sport. And I take that very seriously.
Right.
I mean, to the point where I have passed world-class animals in a couple of cases because they were on the skyline and I was shooting a rifle. And even though I know there was nothing but miles and miles of bloody Mexico in one case behind me, 20,000 miles of nothing back there, no people, nothing. I didn't take that skyline shot because I know that there's somebody out there that would then go, oh, well, if Nick did it, it's okay. Well, no, you learn in your hunter safety class, that's not okay. And so I take that seriously, and I want to be the best steward of it I can be. And there's always going to be haters. You can't make everybody happy. But that's why we need all of it. You know what I mean?
Something you said reminded me of a funny story, and then I kind of want to get into some of your crazy adventures. You said, when you were a kid sneaking up on deer. One time we were on a road trip, and I had to go to a total archery challenge. And so it was middle of summer. My wife's a teacher, so she was off. All the kids are out of school, and I'm like, well, let's just make it a road trip. And so we did like this national park tour, basically, for all the kids, just went to all the parks on the way there.
Yeah.
And cool. So we stop in, we camp, and we tent camp at the Grand Canyon. And my son comes to the camp, and he's like, hey, Dad, you want to go play stop and go? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he was probably Lord 4. And he's like, you want to go play stop and go? And I'm like, you mean like red light, green light? And he's like, no, stop and go. And I'm like, what are you talking about, son? And he's like, come here, I'll show you. And we so I walk out of our tent area and kind of walk out, and there's a cow elk standing there. And he said, just watch me. And so he's like getting as close to this elk as he could, and it would stop and turn around. And he'd stop and freeze, and then when it would not look away, he'd stop and start walking, and then it'd turn, and he'd stop and freeze. And I'm like, okay, now I see what you're talking about. And so like all week long, like a mule deer would come through, and he'd, walk after it, and it would stop and look. And of course, these are, park animals. They could care less. They wanted him to feed them. But as soon as they would stop and look at him, he'd freeze real quick and stop. And sure enough, this big bull comes in, and it's drinking from like literally like an RV hose, like just right outside this RV. And so there's, of course, like hundreds of people come around to like take pictures and look at this bull, and they're all standing within like 15 yards of us. And my son goes, "Dad, just go get your bow out of the car." And I'm like, dude, you can't, like, and of course, so like hundreds of people stop and look at me like, "Are you serious right now?" And I'm like, "No, like I'm on my way to a work event. I'm going to shoot my bow." So I've got it in the car, but no, it's not. I'm like, dude, you're about to get us booted out of this place, man.
That's funny. I love it.
But that reminded me of that, you saying sneaking up on animals. Let me share a little bit about why I am so passionate about Mountain Ops. Yeah, they make incredible supplements to help me in my everyday life, on the mountain, in the gym. Great supplements. However, they also support my rights as a hunter. They're also Christian owned, which is something that I value a ton. And then third, through Operation Conquer Hunger, for every order that's placed on mountainops.com, they're providing a healthy meal to a family in need. Guys, if you use supplements at all, I would highly encourage you to look at not only the supplements that a company is pushing out, but also what that company represents. So guys, go check out mountainops.com, because it's a company that I can not only support because they make great products, but because they support the same things that I support. They support me as a hunter as well. So guys, go to mountainops.com, use code TYPICAL. That's going to save you a lot on your order, and you're still going to provide a meal for somebody who's in need of a healthy meal. Mountainops.com, discount code TYPICAL. Go check them out today. My favorite product by far is Ignite. I use it every single day. Before I podcast, before I sit down to work, before I go to the gym, I use it all the time. I use it on the mountain religiously. Ignite is my favorite product by far. However, they have a full line of supplements to help you conquer the mountain, conquer the day, conquer work, whatever you're looking to do. They've got something for you. Mountainops.com, discount code TYPICAL. All right. So what are some of your, well, actually, before we get into your crazy adventures, you mentioned something that I think is very valuable to the listener, and I'm going to have you give some options here. Hunts that are affordable, that anybody can save up, go on and do. Some of those, crazy hunts that just, I remember my dad, like a few weeks ago, he's like, I said, "Dad, if you could go on any hunt in the world, what would you do?" And he's like, "Red stag." And I'm like, that's not that expensive. Like, just go. And he's like, "Dude, that's like 50 grand. And I'm like, no, it's Dad, not. It's actually not. And so some people like think these hunts are out of reach. What are some of those cool adventures that you think, super affordable? Anybody can save up some money and go on them?
That's a great question. And I, off the top of my head, there's several that come to mind. Obviously, red stag in New Zealand is as big of an adventure and as cool of a place as you could possibly go on. And one of the misnomers is that it's only high fence, only giant pen raised stag over there, and that's just not true. Right. In fact, there are a lot of free range opportunities in New Zealand, like tons. One of the hardest, coolest bow hunts I've ever been on was the tar with a bow, and which a tar, if for people that don't know, is like a North African mountain. Asian North African mountain goat. I'm trying to just make it really simple, and it's kin to a mountain goat kind of. It's got big long black hair and kind of thicker mountain goat style horns, and It lives up in the beautiful snow-covered mountains of New Zealand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can hunt them year round. And bow hunting, one of those things, is hard but doable. And it's a couple thousand, $3,000 to do it, right? And that's a
Yeah.
lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but you can't go hunt deer in Pike County for that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and yeah, you got to travel over there, and you got to pay for some of that. And it's a long trip, but it's an adventure of a lifetime. And not only that,
Mm-hmm.
you've got free range fallow deer, you've got free range chamois, which, you want to talk about a hard hunt, rifle or bow. A chamois hunt is hard.
Yeah.
The tar thing, of course, there's free range red stag. Like I said, fallow deer on the North Island. There's all these other kinds of deer. That is a hunter's paradise. And it is so affordable, so much more affordable than you could imagine. And
Yeah.
I mean, I highly encourage you. Like, I've hunted with these guys, Glenn Dean, over there for several times. Go check out. Start there. Go to Glenn Dean hunting and fishing or whatever it is.com and check that and start there. Then compare their prices to other people, and you'd be surprised. Now, if you want to go shoot a big high fence, and some of those high fences, by the way, are gigantic, you know what I mean? But that's,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not like you're just shooting one in the pen all the time. But you want to go shoot one of those 500-inch giant stags, good for you, but you're going to pay for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
You want to shoot a free range, regular stag, dude, you can do that way cheaper than you think, because that's not typically what people go there and do. Right? They obviously do the stag, but a lot of times the people that go over there and hunt those things, they're hunting the big pen raised stags, and then they're going on a helicopter hunt for the chamois and the tar. They're not putting in the work. The first tar hunt I did there, we got dropped off in a helicopter, and we spent 6 days in the backcountry in a tent. The old, the way that you would sheep hunt, or the way that you would hunt out west. And that was my first New Zealand experience. And let me tell you, I fell in love with it,
Yeah. And well, never mind. I'm not finding packages. I'm not finding prices. I went to
on their
Glendean's
website?
website. Yeah,
Because
just to
they're
give examples.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I think you can get a one of their free range stags, and obviously I'm not quoting prices here, but yeah, I know you can do that in that $5,000 range for sure. For sure. And they'll work with you too. If you call these places, and this goes for New Zealand, Africa, some other places I'm going to list here in a second. If you call them and you tell them, hey, I'm just interested in hunting representative species. I don't need to go home with the biggest thing in the world, or even management species. A lot of times they don't have that stuff posted, but you'd be surprised how open they are to having somebody come and shoot some of the stuff that nobody else wants to shoot, and not everybody offers that, or depends on how far out you book it or whatever. But sometimes you need to just think a little outside the box too. I've shot several of my big marquee species. I've got one coming up actually that I probably couldn't afford otherwise, but I'm going over there and shooting a one-horn ram.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the old and the broken. You know what I mean? And I'm fine with shooting a management animal. It doesn't always need to make the record book for me. And so you'd be surprised in the power of that, because most people are going over there for the big trophy. But if you let people know, hey, I'm willing to work with you if you'll work with me, you'd be surprised. How quickly they'll work with you.
Well, because like you said, most of the time they don't have anybody to shoot the management animals. Like, they need somebody to come shoot management animals.
Absolutely. And that's when it comes to bow hunting, New Zealand's great. And the free range stuff, a lot of fun. Difficult, challenging as you want it to be, and beautiful animals, and lots of them. The next one that comes to mind is Hawaii.
Yeah.
Hawaii is a sleeper in a lot of ways for me, because the hunts are ridiculously affordable in the scheme of things. And there's a lot of opportunity, especially axis deer, right? Like, the axis deer in Hawaii is world class. There's tons of them. You're going to have a high bag limit. Like you usually get to go over there and shoot several of them. It's the best meat on the planet. You can bring it home in a cooler when you fly
And
home.
it's $2,500.
Exactly. And again, if you go over there and say, hey, I'm willing to shoot does, I'm willing to shoot, management stuff, you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. Not to mention turkeys, Hawaiian black sheep, pigs. There's obviously the axis deer. There's mouflon sheep. There's all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of opportunity there. Spain I'm going back to Spain. I've shot almost every species in Spain, and I'm going back. Not because I have to, because I want to. Because you want to talk about a place to take your wife or a couples trip for a hunting trip. Spain is as good as it gets, because they have the 4 ibex, obviously, which that's as good of a mountain hunt as you can get. But you're also usually going back to a nice hotel at night. You get a hot shower and drinking good wine and eating a good meal. That country is incredible, and each of those 4 species might as well be in a different country. It's like one of them's in New York and one of them's in California, right? Like 2 completely different places. And the next one's in Arizona and the next one's in Montana. Like and you're getting to see different parts of the country, obviously so historical and surprisingly affordable. If you are okay with shooting, especially if you're okay with shooting representative species and not trying to shoot a world record, again, you'd be surprised how quickly you can do stuff for cheap. They also have aoudad, they have red stag over there, they have pigs, they have roe deer, they have, all sorts of other stuff.
Going back real quick, you mentioned good trip for the wife. I've been trying to talk my wife into Hawaii to hunt axis. Now, how does that, I guess her question, and so you're answering this for my wife, not that she's ever going to listen to this podcast, but at least I'll be able to tell her. How far are you away from like Hawaii as a vacation spot? You know what I mean?
Oh no, you're in the vacation spot. Like you're going to be staying on the beach, like depending on where you go. For example, the Big Island, right, which is literally the biggest island and has mountains on it, like full on snow covered mountains where there's sheep on. When I've hunted there twice, and when I hunted there the first time, we brought another couple over with us. We rented a house on the beach for cheap. Like I couldn't believe how cheap it was. Our Airbnb on the beach in a little community, had our own little pool, had the whole 9 yards. And then I would just literally, the outfitter would pick me up every morning at my house, and everybody would stay there, wake up. We'd go hunt for the afternoon. For the morning, it's too hot in the middle of the afternoon to hunt anyway. I go back, hang out at the pool during the day with everybody, go have lunch, everything. And then we'd be back about lunchtime. And then, 3 or 4 o'clock, we'd head back up the mountain. And
that's nice.
And so if you go to the island of Lanai, which is a privately owned island, and is so littered with axis deer that they actually literally they have a USDA program for culling and thinning them and selling the meat. You're going to stay at the Four Seasons most likely, and it's opulent. And you're there at the Four Seasons. You hunt in the morning, go back to the Four Seasons, sit on the beach, and then the only downside is, you can do what you want, but I'm never gonna drink and hunt, right? So everybody else is drinking my pina coladas, and I'm drinking my Coke in the middle of the day and waiting for that cold beer after I get done with the afternoon hunt. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but they're all doing that, and we go back in the afternoon and hunt again. And I'm actually going to go back and do that again this summer. And those are hunts that I don't need to go do, but I want to because they're fun. And then of course there's Molokai, the same outfitter that I've used in on the Big Island, also has an operation on Molokai. It's called Nahele Outfitters. If anybody wants to look it up, Nahele, and great people. And they have axis deer there. And when you hunt with them there's not a lot going on that island. So they actually have a house on the beach, the ranch house that they stay in. So you've got this cool, local, authentic experience. On the island of Maui, there's a fantastic outfitter on Maui as well that does pigs and fallow and axis as well. That's 6 islands that you could explore. You could go to Hawaii every year with your family and make it a different experience every time and get some hunting in the middle, in the morning, in the afternoon. And your wife can sit on the beach if she wants, or she can run out with you and hunt for a few hours and you guys can be at the beach in the afternoon. A lot of guys only hunt in the mornings or only the afternoons. And then, what happened there? That's interesting.
It's like I don't know.
There it is.
It like adds it.
But a lot of guys will go over there and with their families and only hunt in the morning or only hunt in the afternoon and then spend the rest of the day.
Going back to must be nice. Like, again, people say must be nice. Like, must be nice that your wife lets you go on all these adventures. Like, dude, I try to make them enjoyable for her too. Like, Absolutely. Again, going back to like Total Archery Challenge, like, hey, let's take the wife and kids. We'll vacation on the way up. Like,
yep.
We did a bear hunt in Maine a couple years ago, and it's like,
cool.
Hey, I know you've always wanted to do the Nicholas Sparks lighthouse stuff. Like, let's do that on the way up and stop at Niagara Falls and make it a trip for you as well. And not just see you, babe, you're home alone with the kids. Like, make it a family ordeal.
Absolutely.
Make it enjoyable for the whole family.
I see it a lot. And it's fresh in my mind. That's why I keep mentioning the SCI and the SCI convention. There are so many couples that come there and they book these big international trips there together. And most of those couples, when you talk to them, they didn't start out like that. It usually started, one of them, a few of them are the wives and the husbands hunted later, but usually it's the husband, hunting, and either the wife gets interested in the hunting or it's one of these hunts like I'm talking about right now, Spain, New Zealand, Hawaii, that gets them into the whole, we could go do a hunt once a year and make it our annual family vacation. And you get to go hunt a little bit and I get to go sit on the beach, or I get to go get massages or go to the spa or go to Madrid and go shopping or whatever it is, or eat the food or whatever suits their fancy. That's how it starts. And man, I'm telling you, my wife comes with me on a lot of stuff as well. But she picks and chooses. She's like, 130 degrees in Mozambique? Nah. Bugs? Nope. New Zealand again? Yes, I'm in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and so it's, there's a lot of opportunity out there. The next one, and that brings me up to the next one that I think people don't realize how easy and how cheap it can be, is Africa. A plains game hunt in Africa is oftentimes considerably cheaper than, like I said, a Pike County, Illinois whitetail hunt or an outfitted elk hunt somewhere. And so, and it's also the experience of a lifetime. Africa for me is, my life again is measured in before and after my first Africa hunt. And I was absolutely one of those guys that was of the camp of, I'm a, as my friend Laird Hamberlin says, a DDT guy. I was deer, ducks, and turkeys, right? Like, I had no interest in going to Africa, although I really did. I found it romantic. I read all the safari books. I read Roosevelt and I read Capstick and Ruark and those guys. I read all that stuff, but I never saw it as something I was going to ever be able to do. So it never even opened that compartment of my mind up. When I went to Namibia for the first time, somebody told me on the phone the day before I left, he said, I said, I don't know. I'll check it out. I'm going to go. I got this opportunity, yada, yada. He said, you'll be booking your next trip back on your second day there around the campfire. And I was like, whatever. Guess what I found myself doing? Over the beer, I'm sitting there going, campfire, I got a beer in my hand. I go, so if I came back, like, could I do this? Could I do that? You know what I mean? I found myself on my second day booking my next trip back. And I got my best hunting buddy we have a deer farm up in Kentucky. He's got his place and I've got some leases up there and stuff. We've been hunting together for almost 2 decades now. He's still to this day, he's just a good old Kentucky boy. And he's like, I have no interest in going to Africa. I go, because you don't know. You think you don't have an interest in going to Africa, but you do. You just don't know it. You know what I mean? That's like saying to someone, I don't like chocolate. Well, have you ever tried chocolate? No, I've never eaten it, but I know I don't like it. Well, most likely, I hate to bring it to you, probably going to like chocolate, right? Africa is like that to me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's
And you're talking like when you're talking affordable, you're talking like $5,000 and you're killing 5 animals type
or
affordable.
less. Man, I'm telling
Yeah.
you, there's crazy. You can do, you want to play the game a little bit. Here's, a little inside track. Start going on some of these, you guys sell them too at your chapter things and at your
Yeah.
things, but go to they have them on Ducks Unlimited banquets. But go online and follow any local chapter of SCI, any local chapter of DSC, any local chapter of Pope and Young, any local. Go to these chapter. Go online and follow their auctions during their banquets. You can pick up a starter plains game hunt for 3 wildebeest,
$1,200.
dude. I'm telling you, you could pick up a whole hunt for 2 couples in Africa with a bunch of your trophy fees already paid for $1,500.
Yeah.
And then a
dude.
flight over there is about $1,000 and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah.
And
dude, I've been so amazed. I still get amazed. Like,
yep.
And we're like, you can talk beginner playing game all you want, but like, I've been amazed at like some of these incredible packages where it's like, dude, I could never afford to do that. And then it's like, that just went for $1,300 or $2,600 or whatever.
I bought both my Sable and my Roan, which are both, minimum $8,000 to $12,000 hunts, right? Both of those I got different SCI banquets for $1,500 each.
Give some advice though.
Yeah.
Give some advice though, because some of those hunts are hard to understand because they see
just took the words out of my mouth. Yep.
Yeah. So give us the rundown on like how to understand what you're actually getting
and
when it says like
for
trophy fees.
And this is going to go for if you're looking at auction hunts. This is a really good topic to talk about. I think that I'm glad you brought it up. It's not just Africa I'm talking about now. Europe as well. So Africa, Europe, New Zealand to a certain extent, and some of these other hunts. When you're looking at an auction hunt, they're not all created equal. There's no doubt that some of these outfitters, they donate a hunt because they have to, or they're being obligated to, or it's a way to get you there so that you'll spend more money, right? Mm-hmm. So what you're looking for is those hunts are usually almost all hunts outside the United States are split into day fees, right, and then trophy fees. So, and a lot of people don't realize that's usually the case in most European anything outside the United States. So you're going to pay anywhere from $200 to $500 a day to be in camp, right? And that includes your guide, your cooks, your food, your lodging, everything, right? And then everything you shoot is on top of that. A springbuck might be $500 in Africa, and a roan might be $10,000, right? And so everything in between. What you want to pay attention to is what is included, right? Because you might get a 10-day safari for 4 people for $1,500, but it has no trophy fees included. Well, now you're going to get over there and you're going to spend, a bunch of money, and some of them even have minimums. That's another thing you'll see. Like, okay, yeah, I'm getting this 10-day thing, and that's technically free, but you're required to spend so much on animals. That's not as typical, but those are the things you want to look out for. What's included? What you're looking for is a safari or a trip to New Zealand or Europe that has day fees and several species of trophy fees, animals included. And of course, those got to be animals that you're interested in hunting. In Africa, there's almost nothing. Your first safari, everything's going to be like, whoa, that's cool. That's cool. That's whoa, what's that? How much is that? Because they're incredible. I mean, all the animals are so different. But the same thing goes for Europe. You go you go to Romania and you've got roe deer and bear and fallow deer and all these other things. What's included, right? And then the other thing that you have to consider is obviously tips is a significant thing. Usually, 10% of what the total cost is of the hunt is typical. So, up to a certain amount, there's kind of a cutoff for that usually. So yeah, you got to look out for that stuff. But
Or sometimes they'll say like you'll read that and you'll say like, oh, I get 3 animals. And then the fine print says must add,
It's
whatever.
must add 2 more or whatever.
Yeah.
Those ones are sometimes the ones that don't get bid on as much now. If you've got budget for that, that's where you can get a really, really good deal, right? Like, cause okay, well, I do want a springbuck and a wildebeest, but I also want to hunt a kudu, and that's not on there. And I need to add an animal anyway. Well, now you get yourself into something that can be really, really good. And not all outfitters are created equal. So you want to do your homework ahead of time. Okay, here's an auction item that I want to look at. And I'm going to do a little bit of research.
My best advice is go to the event.
Absolutely.
And go to the outfitter before the auction.
And a lot of times those outfitters are there on site. You're right about that. Not always, but they oftentimes are. But here, I can tell you this. Any outfitter worth their salt will give you the phone numbers of some people to talk to. Yeah, and granted, they're usually going to give you somebody who had a good experience. But I've called references before, and by and large, most of the people that I've called that an outfitter has suggested usually gives me, both the positives and the negatives. You know what I mean? They're honest. And, but man, nowadays in this digital age, it's pretty hard to type in an outfitter's name and not find some forum that's talking about some experience. And if somebody's no good, it doesn't take long to find. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because typically, just like a Yelp review, a lot of times people don't go on and post glowing reviews, that positive reviews, but people are real quick to post something that didn't go well. You know what I mean? So, for the most part, I have had very, very good experiences over the years with outfitters. I've only had a couple that were nightmares. But again, those are little things you can look for. It's a great idea I should do a post about it someday and kind of talk a little more about that. Because it's a really important thing that it's overwhelming. If you've never booked a hunt in Africa, all those details can be overwhelming, and but it shouldn't keep you from doing it.
And all of those details can get scary because you're like, it'll say in the fine print, like transport to and from airport not included. So you're like, okay, well, is that $100 or is that $1,000? Like, you just don't know what you don't know. And it's hard telling, not knowing,
Yeah. I mean, it's typically, you're exactly right. And, those things, those things usually aren't going to be prohibitive. What can catch you is if you're required to buy a couple of animals that are expensive. Typically that's not what happens though. And, I would say that by and large, most outfitters, especially in Africa, they want you there. They want you to be there. Because you're going to tell your friends, right? And you're going to tell your friends, and that's how they book at these shows. But the number one way that all these outfitters book is with word of mouth. They don't want to, they don't want to piss anybody off. They want you to have a great experience because they know that you're going to go talk to people about it later on.
It's also funny that you mentioned bad outfitters because I think, my opinion, bad outfitters are more prevalent in the States than they are in these countries because these countries depend on that. Like
that. And, it's pretty hard to stay in business. If you're crappy, you gotta weed through them a little bit, but man, I'm telling you again, nowadays, the old Google machine is your friend. It is so easy to find information and hunting reports on these outfitters. It doesn't take long to weed through. And I'll tell you this also, by and large, if an outfitter is on so let's just take SCI, for example. If an outfitter is on an SCI chapter banquet auction, most likely it's because somebody in that club hunted with them and asked them for that donation.
100%.
So there's a relative level of safety in that because most likely, and same thing with SCI National, like on the national convention that we were just at, they're not going to put people on there that haven't been kind of industry respected and vetted for the most part, right? I'm sure stuff slips through the cracks, but especially on the chapter banquet level, most of those items are things that somebody in that club at that local chapter hunted with them and said, "Hey, would you mind donating to my local chapter?" And so
Yeah.
somebody's already been on that one and they vetted them a little bit, and usually it's a pretty safe bet. And again, I'd like to really point out to people who are listening, we're using Africa right now as an example, but everything we just said, everything I just mentioned, and everything we just talked about, it absolutely applies to the other countries like we talked. All of Europe is going to be the same type of scenario, trophy fees and day fees. New Zealand's going to be like that. Obviously Spain, which falls into Europe. And in some cases, Asia as well. Quickly, Asia, you can't go hunt any of those sheep for cheap. But you'd be surprised that like a mid-Asian ibex in Kyrgyzstan, you can still do for a relatively cheap price. And that is the adventure of a lifetime. I'm talking $7,500, right?
Yeah.
So that's a lot of freaking money. Don't get me wrong. I'm not downplaying the people that are listening to be like, well, that's a lot of, of course it is, but it's doable. You can save
but it's
that
the same
money
as a
over
guided elk hunt.
100%. You can save that
Idaho,
money
Montana.
up over several years, and you can get the exact same experience that you get on a Marco Polo with a mid-Asian ibex, which is a badass animal. It's going to be the hardest hunt you ever do in your life, and you're going to come home being like, "Holy crap, that was amazing!" $7,500.
Yeah.
And especially if you pick one up at a show, you go to one of these shows, Western Hunter, or you go to SCI, or you go to your Pope and Young, or you go somewhere and there's an Asian outfitter there. A lot of times they've got a couple extra leftover ibex hunts they're selling at a discount, and it's a great place to pick one up.
That's what I was going to say too. You want to talk about getting hunts cheap? Have your money saved up, like have it. Even if you don't know what hunt you want to go on yet, start saving the money, because if you get in on a last minute cancellation hunt, sometimes that's the best way to do it. But you got to have that money ready. Like it's like hey, I'm leaving next month. I got to pay this now.
Yep.
So even if you don't have a hunt lined out, and that's why I keep that hunting budget that just put it in a pot and it's ready to go when I need it. Because if something comes up.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm a big fan also of booking way in advance. Right. So, and this is where some people just can't put their head around because they've never done it. But it's a great way to impetus to save some money. So say you've got a couple $1,000 in your hunting savings account. You got a couple $1,000 that you know that you can spend. And you know that you want to, let's use mid-Asian ibex. You know damn well you want to go hunt mid-Asian ibex, or you want to hunt grizzly bear in Alaska. That's a really good, and that's another hunt that you could do relatively cheap. Grizzly bear in Alaska and caribou in Alaska is still an affordable thing in a lot of cases. So let's say grizzly bear in Alaska. Go ahead.
Take a step back. How would grizzly? I know caribou's pretty affordable. But with grizzly, don't you have to hire a guide though?
You do, absolutely. Yep, you have to. But it's you'd be surprised. Inland grizzly. We're not talking about coastal brown bears or anything like that. I'm talking about inland grizzly, like up by Kotzebue, for example. There's an outfitter up there that I've hunted with for grizzly. And that's a relatively inexpensive hunt because it's not necessarily the most desirable of animals, right? Like, but you're still getting a big old grizzly out of the deal, and you're getting that same experience, and it can be relatively inexpensive. But going back to what I was saying, man, go there and find that guy, and find somebody you want to hunt with, find an animal you want to hunt with, and put your $2,000 down on a hunt in 29. You know what I mean? 3 years from now. And you know that in September of 2029, I'm going to go hunt inland grizzly, okay? In Kotzebue, whatever it may be. And then you've got 4 years to pay a couple $1,000 a year on it, right? And by the time your hunt comes around and you made your last payment, you've managed to have like a little hunting savings account and a reason to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so go ahead and book that hunt, and book it in 29. Like I said, book it in 28, book it as far out as that guy will let you book it. And I've done that a bunch of times because I can't afford it right now, but I'm making myself afford it. Right. I put my money down so that I can't get out of it. And I'm going to save my butt off for the next 3 years so that when September of 29 comes up, I'm ready to go. And man, sometimes that's all the inspiration you need. You know what I mean? You just need a little bit of inspiration to kickstart something. And, and it's on the calendar and it's coming. And suddenly maybe you don't go get that Starbucks. Suddenly maybe you put that $20 in your hunting savings account instead. And it gives you the impetus and the inspiration to do that. So.
And dude, like, I mean, there are so many ways. Like I've heard so many guys talk about, I don't know if you know Frank Noska,
No.
Probably one of the best hunters I've ever met in my lifetime. I think he's now 2 animals away from completing the Super Slam for the third time. And it's like, dude, Frank, how do you afford to do this? And he's like, I drive a 2002 pickup with liability insurance. I shoot a, whatever year Matthews, like I don't buy a new bow every year. Like I don't, and I don't have, I don't spend money on Peacock, Netflix, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus. Like that's $120 a month, like in subscriptions. Like if you, and I don't want this episode to be like a, now you're going to talk to your wife and saying like, all right, what all can we cancel? That's not the point of this.
No.
The point is, if you want to make it happen, you certainly can.
The point is I'm talking about this to try and inspire somebody who's listening. My entire goal and my entire mantra of what I'm doing is book the damn hunt. Like go out. Life is too short. I've recently written a book called The Deathbed Mentality, talking about trying to live your life through the lens of how am I going to feel about this on their deathbed. And let me tell you, nobody that I've ever known, and nobody that I can think of, is ever going to be on their deathbed saying, hey, bring me that cup from that Starbucks that I drank, or bring me that trophy that I won so I can see it one more time. But you will absolutely be saying, hey, bring me that picture of me on that mountain with that sheep or that deer or whatever. You will be thinking about those things. Because those are the moments, man. And so I'm not sitting here trying to judge anybody's financial situation or to tell anybody they should or shouldn't be doing anything. I hope that one person listens and gets inspired and goes, I can't do one of these every year, but I can do one of these once in my life. And you will never freaking regret it. Ever, 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 ever. Yeah. It's a lot of money, but it's just about perspective. And I believe we save for and we make time for the things that we really want to do. The question is, how bad do you want to do it?
Yeah.
And I recognize it might be once in a lifetime, truly once in a lifetime thing for somebody, but the only way you're going to make your once in a lifetime thing happen is by somehow starting. And for me, a lot of it is going to a show. Right. Go to the Pope and Young convention, go to SCI, go to Western Hunter, go to Harrisburg to the, Great American Outdoor Show, go to your local chapter banquet, whatever it is, and start dreaming. I mean, start dreaming, man. I mean, again, life's too freaking short. It is. Yeah.
Before we move on, what are some of the like lower 29, lower 49, not 29? I'm from Arkansas. Mm-hmm. We don't know numbers well. What are some of the lower 49 that you could do? Lower 48, dude. I'm still saying, why didn't you correct me the second time?
I wasn't quite 48. Sure. I thought you were going with North American 29 animals first, and then so I was trying to track with you.
Maybe that's where I don't know. Lower 48, the states that we live in without crossing the border. What are some of those affordable hunts that you would say like, man, these are not outrageous?
Well, I mean, the one of the first ones that comes to mind is obviously there's elk opportunity in some of the public land areas, right? But they get pounded and it's tough. Like you said, I got buddies like you. My brother-in-law has been out to Colorado 4 times and has only seen an elk twice, that kind of thing. Those opportunities are there. And I encourage people to do them because nobody ever went to the mountains for a week with their camp on their back and regretted it. You know, it's about so much more than killing something. So obviously the Western elk stuff is one of the things, but I think one of the most underestimated things you can go do is some of the great public land whitetail hunting that we have in this country. I mean, here in Tennessee, for example, you know, we have a lot of big hardwood public ground that anybody from anywhere in the country can come and hunt. And I know there's a bunch of Tennesseans right now being like, shut up. Don't tell them
Why
about
are you
that.
saying this?
Why are you saying that? I'm going to get all this crap. You know what I mean? But I think there's some, now granted, you're probably not going to shoot a giant. You could, it happens every year, but there's some awesome public ground here in the South that it gets overlooked. The same thing goes for my home state of Minnesota. There's a lot of great public hunting ground in Minnesota as well. I think I'm trying to think of just the really super affordable stuff.
Well, one that comes to mind for me is black bears. Like people don't understand a guided black bear hunt. You can go on a guide and you're going to see as many bears as you want to see.
If you want to go on a guide, like we're talking guided stuff, black bears, alligators.
Yeah.
Like archery alligator hunt's a lot of fun. And and I think an underestimated quarry too. Like you can go in the midsummer and call in gators right to the shore right in front of you and shoot them with a bow daytime. I mean, it's exciting because it's like this thing's literally coming to eat me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's fun. I think that that's one that comes to mind. I think one of the true underestimated great hunts and a lot harder to do with a bow on public ground, but a great rifle hunt is any pronghorn antelope, over the counter pronghorn antelope anywhere. Out west, there's so much walking ground, and it's not easy. Those things, I mean, they've been hunted. Their number one defense mechanism is their eyes, and but guys, it's doable with a bow. You can spot and stalk those things depending on the area with a bow fairly easily, relatively easily speaking, free by yourself. Obviously a guided antelope hunt's another one that isn't super expensive either, depending on the area. Scott and Angie Denny in Wyoming have one of the best archery antelope spots in the country because of where they go in Wyoming, and it's rolling hills and you can spot and stalk them, and it's very high success rate. You mentioned black bear is a really good one. And I know it's a bit of a, people roll their eyes because they think of high fence stuff. There's a lot of awesome, a lot of it's on private ground. You got to pay to play, but the opportunity in Texas for free range shit in Texas year round for all the free range exotics that are around. Obviously the oddad. I think oddad hunting is one of the great underestimated hunts in our country. The poor man's sheep, you know what I mean? And it is as challenging as you want it to be. Right. And if you want an archery hunt and oddad, that's a tough order, but doable. Right. And fairly, again, now we're talking in that $5,000 depending where you go, $5,000 to $9,000 range, expensive, but not prohibitive necessarily. So yeah, those are the things that come to mind.
Dude, I've talked to guys who have hunted all over this world, and then they talk about Texas All-Dad, and they're like, dude, let me tell you something. Like, it killed me.
Yep.
And I'm like, really?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, dude, don't ever sleep on the challenge of that.
No. And unfortunately, it is more and more people are discovering as those get more and more expensive. So, book an oddad hunt, man. That is it's also a really good entree into sheep hunting, or mountain hunting. If you've never been on a real deal mountain hunt, where you're glassing something up and then going after it, which, I take for granted that I've done a lot of, but that a lot of people haven't. Man, an oddad hunt is as good as it gets because you're getting, you're getting the same experiences you get on a desert sheep hunt. Exact same. It's the same terrain, except in most cases anyway. And you can drive to it from anywhere in the country and you can bring it home. and
Yeah.
you can have a great experience. And it's a really cool mount. Trust me, I've got a half mount aoudad that I shot in Texas years ago. So it's got, full, so you can see the shafts. It's the front legs on a mount on a piece of habitat coming out of the wall. Right next to it's a 200-inch deer. And first thing anybody notices when they walk in is they go, "What's that?"
Yeah.
They're not looking at the big deer. They're looking at that aoudad. So it's a cool mount to have. It's a cool experience. I think it's one of the underestimated hunts in the country for sure.
How would you rate? And this is coming from a guy who really wants to kill one.
Yep.
So this is a genuine question. How would you rate free range, which I have hunted free range axis in Texas. However, I was hunting free range axis in Texas, and it was like I was sitting on a deer lease. So it was like I could see the city baseball field from the blind I was sitting in. So not a real cool hunt.
Yep.
How would you rate free range Texas axis deer versus free range Hawaii axis deer?
Oh man, that's a great question. And give me 1 second. I'm sorry, but
yeah, you're fine. Did you say your dog's name is Hank?
All my dogs have been country music names. I just lost Waylon the other day.
It's funny that you mentioned my dog, getting wives on a hunt. I booked a spring bear hunt for me and my wife in Idaho. And a couple weeks before the hunt, she decided, I don't really know that I want to go on a bear hunt. And I'm like, well, I've already booked this hunt. Like, we're going. I don't know what you're talking about. And she'd always wanted a French bulldog. And so I ended up having to tell her, like, all right, baby, you go on this hunt. You have a good attitude the whole time. And we're not talking, this wasn't a bougie camp. This was a backcountry, like wall tent camp. And you have a good attitude the whole time. And I'll buy you a French bulldog when we get home. And his name is Hank. It's worthless.
That's awesome.
But his name is Hank. So,
hey, so your question before was about, remind me.
Right. Texas versus Hawaii axis.
Oh, yeah. That's a great question. And I think that they're going to be different in that the amount of axis deer that you're going to see in Hawaii is going to be triple or quadruple the amount of axis deer you're going to see. And the cover is a little bit different. So your big enemy in Hawaii is eyeballs. I mean, to get to a big buck that you want to shoot, you got to go through 1,000 does. I mean, on Lanai, they're borderline like rats, right? And that therein is the challenge for bow hunting. Like, it's so many eyeballs that you have to be so sneaky and so tactical. So it's not a matter of whether or not you're going to get into deer. It's a matter of, can you get close enough to the one you want to kill without busting the herd out? In Texas, obviously, even in the free range stuff, oftentimes you're talking about going to and from water or to and from feeders and things like that, which present different challenges and different things. So that the number one difference is the sheer number of animals, obviously. And so but both are really cool challenges. Another hunt that comes to mind as we're talking about underrated North American hunts, and this one will be a little controversial, but I recently went on my second mountain lion hunt. It was a dry ground hunt in Arizona. So not snow. And the last one was on the Blackfeet Reservation in Montana several years ago. So of course we're talking about hunting with dogs, right? And following dogs around, which I know that Pope and Young doesn't necessarily support, right? But that is one of the funnest, most interesting, most exciting hunts there is. And it's so much fun and it's so different, and you will walk your ever living ass off, and it is hard, and it's, and it's cool. And again, you could do that relatively affordably speaking. And you can do that for bear too in Arizona, like black bear with the dogs. It's not my favorite thing in the world. It's not something that I want to do every year because there's other stuff I'd rather do. But every time I've done it, I'm like, man, this is cool. And it's one of those things that I think you need to do once in your life, at least. I mean, I can't remember exactly, but I don't think Pope and Young doesn't recognize a dog mountain lion, do they? Dog killed
Yes, we
mountain
do.
lion? Oh, they do. Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
so then I guess I was mistaken on that. So, but man, I mean, I just shot a bobcat with my bow out of the tree the other day. Is it the most challenging shot I've ever made? Absolutely not. Did I
But the hunt
shake?
leading up to
Well,
it.
and absolutely in that moment when you know this is your moment, and now you're having to
Yeah.
thread the needle. You have a tiny little shot hole, and you're doing it. It's cool, man. And I think that's another underrated hunt in my opinion. And I know there's always the guys that, oh, if it's with dogs, it's not sporting and it's not fair and all this stuff.
Yeah. But then you talk to cat hunters and they're like, because that's the mindset. But then you talk to a cat hunter and they're like, you don't understand. If I drop my dogs and it ends up 3 ridges over, we're going to get my dogs.
That's right.
Like, and we're going to go kill the lion. My dogs just worked their tail off for it.
Well, and in my case, I just got back from Arizona and we hunted with a couple of houndsmen that are, relatively famous. These guys, in the houndsman world, these guys, they're well known and they're killers. They do great.
Yeah.
We hunted our butts off for a week. And I never saw a lion. We were on tracks every day, but we didn't get one. So it's not just a gimme either. That's the point. And let me tell you, we put on miles and miles of hard miles. Because like you said, them cats go up into the mountains to get away. And that means the dogs are going to follow them. And so do you. You have, in order to get those dogs back, you've got to go up and get them. And so it's a whole nother way of doing things. But again, there's another opportunity that is, I think, underestimated and a lot of fun, and everybody should do once,
Yeah. All right. It is time for my favorite segment. It's our rapid fire questions presented by Tito Knives. And I'm going to ixnay a couple of these because you've already mentioned some of the answers just in our conversation. If you could play if you got to do a concert with anybody, who would you pick?
Oh, well, given the fact that I've been lucky and gotten to play with a lot of my heroes, it's a tough one to answer, but the first one that comes to mind that I never got to play with was Merle Haggard. I'm the world's biggest Merle Haggard fan, and I met him a couple times, but I never got to be on stage and play with him. And man, to just one time sing Swinging Doors with Merle Haggard would be about as good as it gets. Yeah.
If you could hunt with anybody, share a camp with anybody, who would it be?
Whew.
Dead or alive?
What a great one. Teddy Roosevelt.
That's
For
always.
me,
I've had that
Roosevelt,
answer a couple times.
I honestly was about to go with the probably very stock answer you guys get, which would be Fred Bear, because I did watch those old videos of his and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But for me, TR, because I love the tradition of Africa so much, and I love our North American conservation model and our national parks and all these things that he is such the father of, I just, man, to share a campfire and a hunt with Teddy Roosevelt, I think would be about as cool as it gets.
I agree, man. You can hunt any species tomorrow. Tags, money, travel, no object. What are you going on?
Sheep. I mean, not even a question. Any of the world sheep now. You started with the 4 mountain sheep here. The Doll Desert, the Stone, and the Bighorn, Rocky Mountain Bighorn. Any of those would be the first thing for sure, but now that I've gotten to travel internationally and chase some of these international sheep as well, there's nothing that garners my respect the way a mountain sheep does. The difficulty of their lives is mind-boggling. I mean, mind-boggling how hard their lives are, and how hard it is to get old enough to be a mature sheep that's a legal ram, and then beyond to be like you talked about Alan Bolin, looking for that one booner. Those are needles in a haystack kind of animals.
Yeah.
They're difficult to get to. They're difficult to hunt. And then if we talk about trying to kill one with a bow, I mean, that might be the great challenge in all of hunting, in my opinion, is any sort of mountain sheep with a bow. So,
have you completed the North American
I'm
Super
halfway
Slam?
there. So I've got a doll in a desert, and I'm planning on hunting stone this fall, and then have a bighorn left. And I play the raffle game, man. I'm in there. And I encourage everybody to do that, man. Join those raffles. Get in on those raffles. I mean, some of those, you have better odds of winning a raffle for sheep than you do putting in for most of these tags. And so yeah, that's another thing we can talk about as well at some point. Is another podcast is tags and tag services and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and I think that nowadays you got to be playing that game as well.
All right, for a guy like you, this is going to be one of the hardest questions maybe you've ever had to answer.
Yeah.
You can only hunt one species for the rest of your life. What are you hunting?
Oof.
And we're not talking like subspecies. Like, you don't get to just say
sheep. Yeah, you can't just say sheep. I'm gonna have to say whitetail. I mean, when it's all said and done, a big mature whitetail year after year just gives the most pleasure. I mean, there is just so much joy for me that comes from the entire process of it, from watching them all summer long to planting food plots to hanging stands and dreaming about them and looking at trail cameras. And I mean, I am that guy that's at a wedding during the summer, like checking my phone and looking at trail camera photos.
100%.
I'm that dude, drives my wife crazy. Whitetails, I think. And I was about to say like doll sheep in Alaska, right? Like, but the close second to me to the whitetail is going to be Cape buffalo in Africa.
I would say, and I've always said the reason I would have to say whitetail is just because, like, if I say elk, I only get to do one a year. If I say, but with deer, I can hunt, I live in Kansas, so I can hunt Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, all within a driving distance. So it's like, it would be hard to say anything else just because I would want to be able to still hunt as much as possible. I agree.
And also we always go back to our first love. I mean, you know what I mean? And for me, that is whitetails will always be my first love,
I thought you were going to say Daisy Duke.
Close second for me is buffalo in Africa. Like if I lived in there's nothing that's more exciting than chasing buffalo around and tracking buffalo in Africa. And you can do that as many times as you want as well. You know what I mean? So those two are the two that come to mind. I love hunting turkeys too. I really do. I think turkey hunting is one of the great joys in life. But if I could only choose one, it'd probably be deer. Yeah.
Yeah. Go-to snack in the tree stand.
I have a really, really terrible toxic relationship with sugar. So it's always going to be some sort of fruit snack for me. Like, I'll try and go get the 100% fruit ones that are a little better, but it's just pure sugar, right? Like, but any sort of like those terrible Mott's fruit snacks, you know what I'm talking about? Oh, I love those things. You know what I mean? And I'll go in there and I'll even go so far during deer season, I'll wrap them up in a paper towel so that I'm not crunching. You know what I mean? And I've got like this ball of paper and I kind of push them all together so that they're kind of so that they don't fall out. They're kind of in like a clump, you know what I mean? And I'll
just eat like an apple.
Absolutely.
And you feel like you're eating an apple.
Like an apple. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Fruit snacks for me are going to be that and Jolly Ranchers.
Oh, I do love a good Jolly Rancher
for me is like a great, in the tree stand, it's the great reset. So like, you pop a Jolly Rancher in, it gives you something to just do for 5 minutes, you're sucking on that thing. It gives you a little sweet, but on a mountain hunt or on a hard hunt, they're my reward. So like, if I start feeling like I'm starting to like mentally lose it, like, I'm losing my focus, or I'm feeling like, man, I'm too tired, I can't get up there or whatever, I'll give myself a Jolly Rancher to kind of boost my morale.
Yeah.
Or I'll tell myself, I need to get to that rock. When I get to that rock, I get a Jolly Rancher. Right. And then, so Jolly Ranchers for me, have helped me out a lot over the years.
Go-to pastime in the tree stand.
Well, unfortunately, nowadays it's the phone,
Scrolling.
right? And I hate to say it, but I do have a couple games that I play on my phone. Back in the day, though, and Lee Lakoski actually is the guy that introduced me to this. He was we were on a black bear hunt in Alberta, and I had shot my bear, so I was sitting with him, and he had the old school. It was a Yahtzee, but it was a game. It was like an actual little handheld game, Yahtzee game. And I'd never played Yahtzee. I mean, his family apparently grew up playing Yahtzee, but I'd never played it. So he showed me how to play Yahtzee. And so then I went and bought one of those. And for years, that Yahtzee game in the tree stand was my thing. Now I've got Yahtzee on my phone, and I play Yahtzee on my phone quite a bit. The other thing I do nowadays is, I'm such a nerd. Now you can download, before you go in, you download the news. Like the Apple News app will, you hit offline or whatever, and it'll download like 50 articles of all sorts of different things. I'll just sit there and read the news nowadays. Which is,
that just means you're getting old.
It's exactly right. I feel like a complete fuddy-duddy saying that. The Yahtzee has usually been my pastime. What about you? What's your thing?
Mine is like the block blast game where you make the matches and it,
complete mindless. Just
100%. Yeah,
that's great.
What is, if you walk into your trophy room, what's the favorite trophy? Like the one that just means the most?
It will forever be my daughter's first deer.
Good answer.
Yeah, the great joy of my hunting career has been the last 3 years when my daughter, who is now, she turned 16 in a month from today. I never in a million years, I mean, I would have bet everything against it, never thought that she'd be a hunter. She wasn't a killer. She just wasn't wired like that. You know what I mean? And she's an animal lover, not an animal killer type of thing, which is funny because we're animal lovers too, right? Obviously, but I just didn't see her pulling the trigger on something. It just wasn't going to be it. And I only have one kid. So obviously as hunters, we grow up thinking about, oh man, someday I'm going to have a kid and it's going to be my hunting buddy, right? I had just resigned myself to the fact that wasn't happening. And then 3 years ago, I taught her to shoot. She could shoot a bow. She shot archery league. She was just like me. I was, she didn't necessarily grow up hunting, but she grew up in a hunting family, which is the difference. Ate venison every night, the whole 9 yards. She's always been around it. She's come to hunting camp with me, all that stuff. So anyway, 3 years ago, she calls and says, "Hey, I've been thinking about it. And I want to go deer hunting this year." And I said, "Honey, you don't have to say that for me. You know what I mean?" And she, "No, I really do. I want to try something new. My friends, I have a couple girlfriends that do it, and they tell me how much they like it. And I think I just want to try it." So we went that year, and she shot a little spike curly horn. We had one horn. We called him, we ended up naming him Freddie. He had one little curly Q. He's obviously a yearling buck, not something we would normally shoot. And she made a great shot and shot Freddie. And then the following year, she shot a nice little 8-point. And then last year, we actually did an episode last year here in Tennessee during the youth season, her last youth season. She shot a really nice big wide 8-point, and similar to that deer back there. And
that's cool.
And yeah, so those 3 deer for me. And now she's been to Africa with me once as well and hunted in Africa. That my daughter's first year, or those last 3 deer, any of them, those will forever be bigger than any 200-inch deer I could ever shoot in my life, in my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You a morning or evening guy?
I have never been a morning guy. In general, I'm a musician first and foremost, and I freaking hate mornings. But as far as deer, I've had way more success in the afternoon than I have in the mornings. But during the rut, man, is there anything better than waking up during the rut in the morning? I mean, I just don't know if there is. I'll tell you a funny story quick about that. I know we're running out of time, but I was hunting in Iowa with a camera guy many years ago with my bow, and we had chased this one big 10 point for a week, and we were tired. And I mean, during the rut, you know how it is. You're just tired, bone tired. It's cold. So on day number 8, we had hung a stand the previous midday for this deer for this next morning sit. We were getting close to him. We were figuring him out. So get up in the morning and it's just dragging. You just can't get yourself out of bed. And it was about a 45-minute drive to the stand. And we drive, and we walk in, climb up there, falling asleep in the stand in the morning and just head bobbing, and trying to wait for the daylight to come up. Both of us, and keep in mind, 2 of us climbed up that tree, hung the camera for all that stuff. Daylight pops. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Here comes a doe. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Couple 30 seconds later, I hear something else. It's that buck. It's him. He's coming. Right. Following that doe. It's happening. Like, this is the moment. You know it. You know what he's about to do. He's going to follow that doe 20 yards past us. And I go like this. I reach back to grab my bow. Right. And I reach back and I turn.
I know where this is
There's
going.
no bow. We had driven 45 minutes, walked a mile into the tree stand. With the camera guy, another dude was with me too, climbed up in the tree, sat down. I mean, I guess the fatigue, I don't know what it was. The biggest boneheaded thing I've ever done. And he just walks right by and out of my life. The only upside is that we got it on camera. It's a funny moment, kind of. But to this day, we never saw that buck again. We didn't scare him or anything, but we never end up killing that deer. And I think about it. I mean, that would have been still, actually, to this day, would have been one of the biggest bucks I would have ever killed.
You just led me perfectly into my next question.
Yeah.
I usually ask, would you rather forget your release or hunt buck naked? But I'm going to ask you, would you rather forget your bow or hunt buck naked?
I would rather, I'd rather hunt buck naked.
Oh, 100%.
All
right.
And I use a back tension release, and now I carry 3 of them because I have dropped that damn thing out of the tree.
Yeah.
And it screwed up a couple of hunts before as well. Like, you reach back and you accidentally bump it or accidentally hit it. I've just shot one my whole life. It's all I've ever shot. And so, but man, I mean, I wish I could reteach myself to use it. Not that I couldn't, but to use a trigger, because it's a lot safer.
Yeah. All right. No boots or no optics?
Oh, God. I mean, you don't need optics to kill deer with a bow, but you can't when it comes to everything else. I mean, it's binos. I'd rather. That's tough. I'm gonna go. No boots. I think.
So funny story, and this is supposed to be rapid fire, but with you and I, that just doesn't happen. This is one of the most, I don't even want to say embarrassing, because I was just like, well, dude, I just had to make it happen,
Yep.
We were on a bear hunt in Idaho, and it was like, backcountry as can be. We're talking like 9 days, and we're on our 9th day. And the guy we were hunting with was like, there's a little mountain town, just right, they say right up the road, but in those mountain roads, it takes you an hour to get there. And it's population 8 people, but there's a burger joint, there's a hot spring. Like, let's go pull out, get a meal, bathe up in a hot spring, and hit it back. And so we drive out, we have a burger, we have a hot spring. So we're coming back in our blue jeans, and I just threw on some Under Armour slides is what I had to get back to camp. And sure enough, and after 8 days, this is the 9th day, after 8 days of just seeing like one bear, we were all just like, man, this is probably not going to happen. And we're driving back to camp, and we see a bear, and I look down, and I'm wearing my Under Armour slides. And they're like, well, we don't have time to go back to camp and get boots. And none of us were like equipped to hunt. But I was wearing Under Armour slides. And so I look down and I look across that bear, and it was about a mile away. Look at my feet, look at that bear. And I'm like, screw it, dude. I threw the slides off because that was going to be worse.
Yeah.
And I went a mile after having to navigate the terrain, 1.5 miles barefoot in Idaho, and got a shot at the bear. So I have hunted in the mountains with no boots.
That's awesome.
And my buddies are just sitting back and they're like, dude, that's the most Arkansas thing we've ever seen in our entire life.
That's great.
And I'm like, well, dude, you had to do what you had to do, baby.
I use the quote all the time. It's a quote my grandpa used to always say is, must be present to win, right? And you know, you can't kill them sitting at the truck.
Absolutely.
So, or in my case, without a bow.
Yeah. You're stuck in camp all week long with either an anti-hunter who tells you how bad you are all week, or somebody who constantly sings and plays the guitar at full volume, but they cannot play the guitar and sing.
I'm definitely going with the dude that is the musician. At least he's trying. You know what I mean? On the anti-hunting side of things, one time I was at this camp in Venice, Louisiana for redfish. And it's right in the mouth of the Mississippi Lake. We're talking about maybe 0.5 mile from the end of the Mississippi, where the Mississippi ends up going into the ocean. And we're at this fish camp, and we're down there on the dock, looking at alligators, and up comes this canoe with 2 people in it, a woman and a man. And on the side of the canoe, it says "Go Vegan." And it was these people that had these vegans that were promoting veganism that had canoed all the way from Minnesota all the way down the Mississippi, and this was the end of their journey. And they had no real plan. You know what I mean? They happened to, the end of their journey, the last place they stopped happens to be a hunting and fishing camp. And we end up at dinner with these people. I'm fascinated by their journey. You know what I mean? And as soon as they found out we were hunters, though, I mean, all we got at dinner was, this the whole time, this the whole time, this the whole time. And I might have answered my question differently, except I've been there and been with an anti-hunter in camp all week, and I'd for at least for a night and a half, and hope I never have to go through that again. Look, I'm fine with you. If you want to have you have your opinions, and I'll have mine, but you don't need to be like this about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, to go on a journey like that, you have to smoke copious amounts of wacky tobacco. Like, you can't do that without getting blazed.
And those people too, the way they describe it too, they had no, when they decided to do it, and they had no previous canoeing experience. So they literally got off the plane, went to REI and bought a canoe, then drove up to the headwaters and got in, and they were YouTubing. This is from them telling me about it. They were YouTubing how to do the J-stroke and how to do canoe stuff on the way up there. So yeah, good for them. They got bigger balls than me. You know, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. No, me neither.
There's some crazy ass people along the Mississippi, man. I don't want nothing to do with that.
Soaking wet socks or those giant stinking pterodactyl sized mosquitoes.
Oh man, I'm gonna say I'm gonna pick socks over the mosquitoes, because I grew up in Minnesota, and I know what that's like. I've been to the Boundary Waters. You know what I mean? I've done that, and I've spent a lot of time on Sheep Mountain with soaked socks, and you can always get in your sleeping bag and dry those out later, but mosquito bites suck. I'm going with socks,
I think so.
That's
too.
A tough one.
90 mile an hour with not 90 mile an hour, 90 degrees with no wind, or 10 degrees with a constant 20 mile an hour wind.
90 degrees with no wind.
Really?
Yeah. I hate
I hate the heat.
Dude, I hate being cold. I hate it. And trust me, I used to snowmobile to school in like jeans and a little jacket. Like I have lost my blood. Look at me. I am pure-blooded Norwegian. I should pick the other thing. I hate the cold nowadays. I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously endure a lot of it year after year after year. But if I have to pick between heat and cold, I'm picking the heat. Unless I'm sleeping.
Dude,
Unless I'm sleeping. I hate sleeping in the heat.
I can always add more clothes, but I can only get so naked. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but
that's where I'm at.
I had to make a choice, and you asked me, and I did. I just booked a trip to Mozambique in November, and I'm already regretting it. It's going to be like 130 degrees and buggy while I'm there, and I'm not looking forward to it.
So have you ever done any of the crazy Arctic hunts?
Yeah, I did. Done a couple of them. The coolest one was Greenland for muskox in the middle of the 20 below winter. Full on Inuit sealskin clothes and the whole 9 yards.
See, I think that would be really cool.
It was the best. It was for a guy that, not only has built his entire show and career around cultural hunting, but that's one thing. But also as a guy who just loves learning about cultures and history, that's as cool as it gets. And that is as close to them doing it the old ways as you're going to get too. Like you can still do that with a dog sled. You know what I mean? And yeah, you're not throwing spears at them or anything like that. But, and that's also that Greenland hunt I remember I always wanted to do that because I remember watching Tom Miranda do that Greenland muskox in the winter off a dog sled years ago and thinking that was the coolest thing. That's another fairly affordable hunt. Going back to what we talked about earlier. Yeah. Greenland muskox is something that everybody should do once in their lives. And you can do it in the hardcore cold, or you could do it in the fall when it's a little warmer as well. And just a really exciting, really cultural, really cool hunt.
Yeah. No, I've always wanted to do it. I want to survive the cold. Like I want to come out wearing stinking beaver mitts and
that's
whatever.
That's what you can do that with those guys. And it's really cool. We used 4-wheelers on mine. I wanted to use dog sleds, but they didn't have enough snow that year. So we had planned on using the dog sleds and didn't get a chance, but it was 20 below, like I said, all the time with the wind blowing. It was painfully cold, but one of the coolest experiences of my life.
Yeah. Well, Nick, where can they follow you at? Where can they watch the show at? Where can they get more Nick and his wild ride?
Everything's at Nick's Wild Ride. So Instagram, Facebook, everything, YouTube, everything's at Nick's Wild Ride. And, if you haven't seen it, I highly encourage you to come and join the wild ride, if you will. I'm really proud of what my team and I do. And I'm proud of the stories that we tell and the people that we tell the stories about, and the food and the culture and the music and the things that we discover along the way as we're out there hunting the world. And it's a lot of fun. And I always say that, every place has a story to tell. You just need to scratch the surface just a little bit, and that's what I do. I go somewhere to hunt and I just scratch the surface just to see what we can find. And, and for those of you that have watched, I need to tell you, thank you. For me to be able to go out there and tell these stories, for a living is one of the great joys of my life. And it's just been nothing short of the coolest dream come true. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Go follow Nick. You got any, do you do any kind of, and I like to ask anytime I have an artist on, but do you do any kind of like traveling concerts? Or is it more of like at shows? Like what I mean, like at SEI?
Yeah, no, I do. I don't play, I don't tour as much as I used to, but I do have a new solo album coming out soon. So keep your eye out for that. And next year I'll be doing more touring. Yeah. So yeah,
very cool.
Yeah. It's
absolutely
nickswildride.net, nickhoffman.com, both those things, if you want to go check out the websites, and, yeah, it's all there.
Guys, if you like to build arrows or work on your bows at home, you have to know about a little website called papertuner.com. I have a little studio here, a little space here where I work on all my bows. And big paper tuners just used to take up all the space. You couldn't hang them anywhere nice and neat. They took up a lot of floor space. And then I come across papertuner.com. What you get from papertuner.com is an all-in-one solution to paper tune your bows. They come with all the magnetic strings, all the clips you need. You can hang it up in a matter of seconds, take it down in a matter of seconds, hang it on the wall. It is a phenomenal way to paper tune your bows. However, they also have incredible arrow spinners. They have arrow stands. If you don't have a place to hang your paper tuner, they even make tripod mounts so you can mount it on just a regular old tripod. Guys, papertuner.com is a phenomenal solution for little shops that just don't have a lot of space for a big old paper tuner. Guys, go check them out, papertuner.com. I promise you'll be glad you did. Well, guys, I would highly encourage you to go follow along with Nick because he is on a wild ride and it's fun to watch. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Everyone have a fantastic week and keep the dusty side up.